one of my favorite things about the Zelda franchise is its bite-sized simplicity. I mean, I beat my favorite Zelda game, Link Between Worlds, in about a 12-hour car trip on my way to Washington. And I've been, deving all day, and it's been really stressing me out. So frankly, I think that I could use a little bit of a break here. Some of that unique charm. So a lot of those simple but challenging puzzles that are themed in a fascinating way that really just brings a lot of comfort and warmth to me.
The fallen leaves tell a story.
What the fuck? Genre switches are difficult to nail. Not just genre switches, but landmark transitions in general are hard to stick the landing. I mean, it was true with Fallout New Vegas, which introduced a shooting system, which it was a turn-based RPG before that. That's fucking absurd. But then after that, you have Pokemon X and Y, which jumped to 3D, and then oops, it was still 2D. And then of course, Sonic 3D Blast, but what I think is one of the hardest transitions that I don't think is talked about enough because of just how universally praised it was, is Zelda Breath of the Wild. I don't think we're talking enough about how Zelda Breath of the Wild completely desecrates the legacy that was left before it in its release. And because of that, I hate it, and I feel fucking insane. So I'm going to spend this video comparing and contrasting Breath of the Wild with Link Between Worlds, and open up a dialogue about open worlds as kind of a trend lately in general. I think that's a good topic of discussion. Now, I understand, the mainstream appeal of open world games. There's a lot to appreciate about the idea of just putting your player into a map instead of giving them a quest line. I mean, there's a lot of freedom and agency in that, and I think that video games' universal, pull in the first place is escapism. It's fantasy. It's the idea that, you don't have to worry about that job, or you don't have to worry about that class, you don't have to worry about taxes, or the police being hot on your tail because actually naming your money laundering business that's a washing machine front, money laundering, isn't reverse psychology, and they didn't find it very funny. And they're starting to look into why you deposited $33,000 in quarters into the bank, despite the fact you've only made $23,000 in revenue from your local community. Now, all of this is only under the condition that everything is built around it being an open world. Like, for example, Minecraft, the best-selling game of all time, builds its philosophy about being an open world from the beginning to the very end, which, I mean, even the end itself is very nebulous in it being the end. Every part of it is open to you. There's no direction to go anywhere, and that's not to say there's nothing to do, because there's so many systems that you can just kind of mess around with that exploring is fun. Zelda, on the other hand, is not a new IP like Minecraft is, and it doesn't have as many systems that are fun to explore that Minecraft does, and for that reason, it isn't as fun to me. I think that Minecraft's, or Zelda's philosophy, or at least Breath of the Wild's philosophy, is linear. Like, it does have the same core idea that every other Zelda game has, and that I think works to its detriment when we're talking about the fact that Zelda is a different genre than Breath of the Wild. I mean, Zelda-like is literally its own individual genre because it talks about the specific landmarks that every Zelda game follows before Breath of the Wild. It's established what a Zelda-like is and what Zelda is, and it's been established for 30 years until Breath of the Wild breaks the chain. Now, how do I know my game is a Zelda-like? Well, the first step is items. In most Zelda games, you'll have different items that open up puzzles by linear progression. It's like this way with Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds. You'll have an ice rod that you'll buy from Rabi, and waterfalls will, shoot up, and then you hit it with the ice rod, and then it freezes, and now you have a platform to go walk across. Stuff like that. That'll open up the entire game. You'll have new ones, like maybe the hook shot will bring you somewhere else. Stuff like that. That will indicate if your game is a Zelda-like. Now, Breath of the Wild, what do you have? Yeah, the open world genre is kind of incompatible with Zelda-like items. Like items as they're used in Zelda-likes are incompatible with the open world model because items in Zelda-likes are markers of progression. Usually what happens is that you get an item, and then you go to a dungeon, and then that item is related to that dungeon, and so you beat the dungeon with that item, and then you get a new item to go to the next dungeon, right? Well, if your game can't bank on you finding a new item, then that means you can't have dungeons that require an item, right? Does that make sense? Because, if I need an ice rod to go to this dungeon, but the ice rod is hidden in fuck all nowhere, and I'm not given any direction to go to fuck all nowhere and get that ice rod, well, then that means that dungeon is just inaccessible to me, and I don't know why. And open worlds aren't allowed to tell you what to do next, because then it's not an open world. And Breath of the Wild is very serious about being an open world, and very serious about being non-linear. So what that means is that all of your puzzles are intrinsically related to the 4 abilities you're given in the beginning of the game. And, Link kind of has psychic abilities in this game. I think it's related to this iPad that he's given. But it's like, you're given 4 abilities, that being ice, magnetism, and locking, I think. And then another thing. I don't remember fully. Don't bully me. It's been a while. Alright, but those are now the center. One of the cooler things about the item system in Zelda-likes is you're given new items throughout the whole thing, which means that also those new items, they are related to a theme, and the dungeon has that theme, and then that item will help you fix those. Will help you fix the puzzles that are in the dungeon that are themed, which means it kind of forces Nintendo and Zelda by itself to have unique puzzles that you've never seen before in the entire game. You will come across new puzzles guaranteed every time you go to a new dungeon with a new item, because you've never seen that item before, and that means that the puzzles that you're about to come across are related to a mechanic that you've never seen. So if all of your puzzles are related to the same 4 mechanics that you introduced at the very beginning, you can't have that. So what that means is that all of the dungeons are themed after the same generic bullshit, and none of them have unique puzzles. I mean, when there's 150 dungeons that you have to fill, I can't expect you to make them all unique. And especially under the circumstance that you can't expect the player to come across all 150 of them. I can't even imagine Nintendo's actual goal as developers of Breath of the Wild was for the player to conquer all of the shrines. Of course not. But isn't that the problem? Isn't that the whole fucking issue? If I can't expect that of you, even though that's the whole thing that's been every other Zelda game before this, is that every thing is unique, every encounter is unique, well, then this isn't a Zelda-like. Like, you can't make the argument that this is a good Zelda game if it sacrifices all the core, if it guts the Zelda formula, right? Because you can't bank on linear progression And so you can't have unique dungeons. And if you can't have unique dungeons, if you can't have unique items, then you can't have unique dungeons. And if you can't have unique dungeons, then Zelda is iconic for its boss fights, dude. One of the most famous things about Zelda is its boss fights. And now, I've only played Wind Waker and Link Between Worlds. I've been meaning to play the other ones, but it's a large commitment. But at least visually, I know what the other ones look like, and I can imagine, right? Like I know that in Skyward Sword, there's that giant fucking thing with all the swords. It spins around, and it looks like Buddha. That's badass. That's awesome. I love that. In Wind Waker, the game that I have played, there's a boss that requires the hook shot to beat it. It's the first boss. It's a scorpion. You take the hook shot, you hook it on its ass, you pull it down, and then it hardens, and you kill it 3 times, and then it dies. That's really cool. That's great. So, what do you do if your game doesn't have unique items, but it still has bot fights? Well, you bullshit! Here, I actually have a clip of the boss fights in Breath of the Wild. Let me just put it on the screen. I mean, I don't have to really explain the loop again. You get it. The reason why it's like this is because on a fundamental design, it has to be. You can't bank on the player finding shit, and so you can't bank on the player being able to fight a boss that needs a specific tool. It really feels like the biggest flaw in Breath of the Wild is the fact it's open world, and it sacrifices everything to be open world. It's not even that it was an impressive open world. It was, but it had a big issue where it felt like it was really empty to me. Sure, there was secrets here and there and cool towns and shit to do every once in a while, but every time it felt like there was a little bit missing, every time it felt like they really needed to fill a space that was too empty, they'd supplement it with like a shrine. And then, I've already complained about the shrines, so my opinion on the shrines. It's like, okay, well, it's not like the beast machines are any better. Like, it's just the shrines times 10, because these are supposed to be the big bad machines, right? They're supposed to be these are the dungeons. The shrines are like little things. They're like mini bite-sized dungeons, and these are the dungeons. There's 4 of them, but they're just bigger shrines. Like they use the same tools because they can't give you any more items. The same puzzles. It's still the same issue. Dungeons, especially the big ones, especially the major ones, are supposed to be a cinematic experience, and they're supposed to finish off with a cinematic capstone. And when your capstone is the middest game on the Wii U, then why am I playing? Right? Why am I wasting my time on this shit? It doesn't feel entertaining to me. It feels like an elongated puzzle game that I'd have more enjoyment out of if it was just all the shrines are back to back in a montage, like Candy Crush or something. Like that's what Zelda Breath of the Wild feels like to me, and the open world just feels like an excuse. It doesn't feel like the game was designed around the open world. Well, no, that's not true. It does feel like the game was designed around the open world, but it feels like it's a detriment to the genre. It feels like it actually holds back the game from being a Zelda game, and especially a good Zelda game. I don't enjoy Breath of the Wild. I think that game is shit. And the biggest reason why is because it is open world. Now, I know that I'm in the minority for this. My goal was not to change your mind. That's silly. You're allowed to like what you like. I just wanted to express my thoughts, and I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of an open world. Now, I didn't specifically pull up a sheet of pros and cons for open world, but I kind of did accidentally by comparing it to Zelda likes, right? Linearity. I talked about the pros of the linear Zelda formula and the cons of the open world Zelda formula. And that was the goal of this video, is to sort through the two. So with that in mind, have a good night. And as always, I'm under your bed right now. Right now, I'm under your bed. I'm actually... No, don't look. Don't look. Don't look. You won't see me. And that's on purpose. And just because you don't see me doesn't mean I'm not there. But I will be sure you have a good night. I will make positively sure you have a good night. Don't bullshit me. Don't check. I just said don't check. You're gonna have a good night.